Hello everybody, and a very warm welcome to yet another edition of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby with me, Alex Payne. We've got a full house to start the show this week. What a merry band we are. Hask is back from jumping around Twickenham, pretty socially distanced at times with Jack Nolan and Emily Scarrett. We'll get into that in a moment or two. Well done, Ellis, a champion of the Autumn Nations Cup, home today, and probably not getting many brownie points for getting straight on Zoom and joining us. And the Lord is here as well. How are you, Lord?
Very well, thank you. Very
good. Before we get into lots of bits and bobs that we're going to discuss this week, has anyone been doing anything interesting? Hask, Ellis, Lord, what's been keeping you busy this week, Michael Tindall? Any world exclusives?
It's been a very
world
good week.
Exclusive to start the show.
Well, we do like to keep Andrea happy, don't we? So I am going to do that for you, Andrea. Been a very good week.
Andrea from Hello.
From Hello, yes. It's been a good week for me. I had a little scan last week. Third Tindall on its way. It's picked me up.
Yes! Congrats, mate. That's class.
It's picked me up. It's picked me up. The Genge who's just got back to. I just got home to a barrel full of nappies, so he's just taken me back to 3 years of my life to what I've got to expect in the future. But yeah, we're not sure what to do. You know, Covey or Covina. I don't know where to go with these.
Oh no!
I think Covina's got a lovely ring to it. Covina Tindall. How are you feeling? I should actually ask, how's Zed feeling?
Zed is very good. Obviously, always careful because of things that have happened in the past, but so far so good. And yeah, really looking forward to it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I'd like a boy this time. I've got two girls. I would like a boy, but I will love it whether it's a boy or a girl. But please be a boy.
Does she know?
Exciting.
Shagger's curse.
Does she know you've told us, or is it one of those bits that she's going to read about it in the Daily Mail sidebar of shame? And Andrea from Hello.
There's a good chance she might just read it. I'm not going to tell her that I've told you, but keep it. No one will know. No one will know. What, 150,000 listens a week? No one will tell her.
Aren't we meant to go through like official channels for this kind of thing? I do hope we're not getting it wrong. We get it wrong most weeks. How long have you got left before you need to? How much can you get in?
No, we like to play our cards close to the chest.
And
3 though, isn't that you've run out of arms when you get 3?
Yeah. Well, you're suddenly outnumbered.
Yeah. Everyone seems to stop at 3, don't they?
Joe Worsley told me he's got 3 giant boys, who are obviously Joe's a big boy, and his delightful missus is obviously beautiful and very tall as well. And they're sort of growing an army. And he did say that the policy always, when traveling or doing anything, is 1 child per adult. So when you get 3, there isn't enough arms to carry. So if you get dumped with them, you're stuck. It's like it's nightmarish. But having been to the manor and the estate, and I would say that you could probably tell the people who normally lower the drawbridge for the guests that you could probably take one of them off that duty and carrying a child just to spread the workload potentially.
Does Mia know yet? Do the girls know?
We haven't told Mia yet, just because we knew she'd tell everyone at school. So now that we've gone through the scan, yes, of course we'll tell her.
What do you think her reaction will be? Because we're getting quite a picture of a lady who knows what she likes and what she doesn't like. I'm just wondering what her view will be on a new edition.
I think she'll be happy about it. She's been requesting another sister or brother, so we've hopefully fulfilled that role for her. She just wants something different now. I think she's Lena's growing up. She's 2.5 now. She wants something younger to play with and dress up.
Good on you. Do you know, it's been given what 2020 has given us, it's a very, very good piece of news to finish with.
It's a good end. It's a good end.
You need to take very good care of your good lady. You probably need to go and cook supper or something, don't you? Have you got to go and do some hoovering or play man husband?
Well, you know that we have to base all my calls around my children. So yeah, you know.
Yeah, you've got exactly. You've got bath time or bedtime to go and do. Tinds, that's really good news. Well done, you. We are absolutely delighted, and we shall look forward to seeing it in every single online publication in the next 24 hours.
Just remember, everyone, quote the show.
Quote the show. Global exclusive. Well done, you. Go and look after Zed. Very nice of you to dial in, and well done on picking the team of the week. And we will we'll follow with great interest wherever we end up this week. But Andrea, you owe us a big one, a slice of your salary for the month of December, I think. Good on you, Lord. Love and hug. Speak to you in a bit.
Cheers, bye. Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Cheers, bye.
Dr. Genge, it's very nice to have you with us. How was it, re-entry? They always call it re-entry, I think, when you've been away for a long time and you wander back into the family house. How is it getting home?
We haven't been allowed to drive with each other in the car
But this week I shared a lift with Ben Young, so I had a bit of company on the way home instead of the dreaded 2.5 hour solo journey back to the yard and then straight changing shitty nappies. But Len was comforting me on the way home to this time, some protein M&Ms from M&S. So it's an essential pit stop.
Do you genuinely find it quite? I mean, I know there weren't 82,000 there yesterday, but it's still a sort of a global audience and a trophy, and Jamie George's stag do last night, and the works. And suddenly you are at home with a bag of crap in one hand and probably a bottle in the other. Does it take a bit of getting used to?
Yeah, like the missus said to me as soon as I got home, she was like, "Well, you seem hungover." I was like, "Mate, fucking hell, I don't need this, please." Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm here changing nappies, looking after the babby, walk the dog, bring the log. We got some logs dropped off for the fire. I had to hold them into the house. I was just like, "Fuck me, cut me some slack, please."
Wait, it's weird. You were hauling logs in, and from the sounds of it, hauling pretty big logs out.
Yeah.
The tone has been set.
Don't get confused. Don't get confused because you'll fucking know about it in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You'll be like, "What is that?"
Yeah, fucking hell. I'll get a bang on the window in a minute. No, it is a bit of a snap back to reality. It's also good, like, keeps you grounded, doesn't it? Coming back to your babby, and you can sort of completely switch off as opposed to come home and depict the game and think about rugby all the time. So it is nice to be able to fully switch off, but at the same time, you've still got rugby in the back of your head. So I'm sure my boys...
Has the bab changed considerably?
Yeah, I guess.
I'd forgotten that you're in for Parent of the Year award. I'd forgotten that we were playing notes of this as we go. What is it I'm meant to say? No great change? Smiling? Pleased to see you? Or no recognition at all and just kind of ready for another feed?
He's got a little bit more hair. He's a little bit fatter. His shit's a bigger. He pisses more. Do you know what I mean? It's just the way babbies are. They grow. They get bigger. Everything gets worse up until about 6 months. Then I don't know. When do they start speaking in that? A year old?
Yeah, he probably got a little bit, a year plus, I think,
at
18
the moment,
months.
They just cry, don't they? He smiles in that now, which is nice.
Ellis, you've only just learned to speak the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't imagine.
Late bloomer.
You'll be like, "All right, Darren."
I had pubes when I was 4, so. No, he's smiling in that now when we can give him a bit of like a tickle or whatever, and he smiles. So that's nice. You actually get a little bit out of it, but yeah, still pretty blank faces all the time.
Well done. Good luck with the next few days. I imagine it takes a lot of getting used to. Let's get to the Autumn Nations Cup in just a moment or two. Before we do that, let's quickly remind you that you can check out our combined team of the week from the final round of games. That's on YouTube if you want to watch that right now. We've got a special mini show that we've been making each week. It's the last one, and would you believe it, Jimmy Carr popped by to judge our Autumn Nations Cup countdown game. So have a look at that if you haven't already. Don't forget, we haven't obviously got any more rugby for you in terms of the international game this year, but you can still catch Amazon Prime Video's coverage of the Premier League, including Liverpool against Tottenham on Wednesday, December the 16th. And it's also where you should actually spend some time having a look at Benobano's documentary, which is called Everybody's Game. It is really, really good. And actually, Ellis features in that prominently. I'll ask you about that in just a moment. We've also got Dan Leo's Oceans Apart documentary for you, which if you haven't seen as well, is well worth a little bit of your time. We actually spoke to Dan the other day on one of our Good Bad Rugby shows, and there are a lot of questions which need answers off the back of that. So do check out both of those. And a reminder, you can subscribe to @Prime Video Sport on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. There's also the All or Nothing documentary following the All Blacks, which is on Prime for you. But Ellis, just quickly, I just want to ask you about the Benobano documentary before we talk about the Autumn Nations Cup, because you've appeared in that, haven't you? How was it? What did you make of it? How did it come about? What impact do you think it's had?
Yeah, when Ben sort of pitched it to me, it was a bit, what's the word? Not skeptical, but a bit wary of whether or not it's a good time to sort of not voice your opinions, I guess, but share stories about such a hot topic. Because in the world of professional sport, whether we like it or not, we've got to be careful of what we say, just because you could be putting the game into disrepute and all that sort of stuff, that bollocks that they start nattering when they want to. Literally, they pick and choose when you put the game in disrepute, don't they? If it comes out and ends up good in the media, they're happy. If not, then fucking hell, you're fined. But
is that a genuine worry for you when you get invited to be in something like this?
Yeah, 100%. Even when you go on and do an interview with, I don't know, one of the papers or something, you say that and you go back later on, you're having a coffee or whatever, you think, fuck me, should I have said that? Like, you can see even the young boys who sort of come into the game and they got to do their first interview out fucking not frightened, but they're just nervous if they're going to say something that upsets someone, like people say, oh, he needs media training, and it's not media training. It's just like everyone from different walks of life just interpret things differently. Like Hass could say something, and I might think, fucking hell, that's no problem with that. But then Payne might think it's a big deal. So we got to be careful what we say. But the Amazon doc, I watched it a little bit sooner than it got released. I think it was 2 weeks, so it wasn't the final edit. They still had a little bit to tinker with, but I thought it was class. I think the message he got across. I thought when you look at the lineup, I thought it was solely going to be based on race, but then like I seen the actual change up from the way he sort of edited it. I thought it was class personally, and like for Benz as well to hit gold like that on his first time doing a documentary. You should have seen it when he came up to my gaff as well. He wasn't demanding, but he was very, like, he knew exactly what he wanted, how he wanted to be portrayed. And honestly, he's into all that sort of artsy stuff as well. I said, bro, I think you got a career in it, really. Honestly, he's got such an eye for it, and like the way he wanted all the angles to be captured. Obviously, the camera crew helped, but like the way he was operating that day, I thought, fucking hell, Ben, this is a big deal. And then obviously when it went to, I don't know, market, whatever you want to call it, when it was published, I thought, yeah, you've nailed it, my boy.
I've not met Benno. I mean, has he studied this kind of thing before in terms of journalism or, you know, media or anything like that? Or has he just got a natural taste for it?
No, I think he's creative anyway, but I think he might have studied something to do with arts or definitely something with music, like in the past. And B, Aloe makes music anyway, like goes studio and that. They're all, him and Ben's are quite artsy. But it's got good traction, hasn't it?
I was going to say, have you had feedback for it? Have you spoken to Benno about the feedback that he's had?
Yeah, I spoke to Benz about it. Maya Jama actually messaged me saying, because she's from Bristol, and she was like, I loved your Bristolianness in the documentary. I was like, fucking hell, what did I say to that? Thank you, my lover.
Changing lanes, are we?
But you think that Benz is trying to hit that sort of... obviously, it's class to have like big names like that, like watching the documentary, because you never know how far it's going to go. It might have 500,000 views, but it might all be from rugby noises. If it's reaching people like that, I think he's hit the nail on the head, really, hasn't he?
Has he got a plan to follow it up?
I don't know.
I'd
say so. I mean,
would you like him to? I mean, do you think he's, you know, he and you and the thread has been picked, as it were, and now it's time to kind of go further with it?
If you look at all the all or nothings that you've got in football and how good they went or how well they went down with like the Tottenham one. What one did I watch? Is it the Sunderland one? Is there an all?
Yeah, Sunderland Till I Die.
That one's fucking class. And then what's the other one when the clubs actually go and bust and they get rid of like 3 managers and he's in the stand sending to make the sub and then centre back comes on, scores the header and he's like, I fucking told you. Have you seen that one?
No, which one's
that? I love the insight. Like when you see them, all these documentaries, a sports documentary, I love all the insight behind the scenes because you then relate that to like when you go into the club or when you're in like sporting environments, because there's always that one thing that you can relate to when you see it in football and you think they're worlds apart in terms of pay and where they are in terms of finance, but then they've always got the same dynamics and like demographic in their setup. They've always got like one joke or one person who's always, I don't know, fucking warming up playing cricket in the gym, or, you know, like the one physio is an absolute cowboy. You know, just like little things like that. And like, I just like seeing that sort of stuff sort of correlate through every walk of life, no matter where you are.
It's often, funny enough, Haskell, it's the teams that are not the biggest that produce the best content in those regards.
Because everyone wants to see them crash and burn.
Yeah.
But it is quite interesting because I've been working as a consultant with a company to put on one of these documentaries and look into it to do it. You know, obviously we are in the business of content creation and we've got a production company ourselves now. But I was talking to some people, you know, probably a year ago who looked into it. And rugby, it's weird. You know, I've just sort of lost words really about rugby because, you know, they talk about so much commercial stuff, but it just can't get anybody to agree on anything. I don't see the bigger picture. And I think it's so odd because there is such a prime opportunity. And I think what Benobano's done is great. And I've only met him a few times, obviously been on England camp with him. And he sadly got injured, I think, just towards the end of when I was available. But I saw him do a nice little rap. Didn't they make him do a rap or something? I can't remember. Or like he did something. I don't know. The lads bullied him into doing something. I don't know. I wasn't involved in that. But it's interesting because there is a prime opportunity to educate people on what rugby is about. Because, again, like I said, if you're in it, everyone understands it. Nobody understands it. It doesn't translate, you know. And the thing is that there's so many journeys. You look at Benobano's journey, you look at Ellis's journey, you look at, you know, where Marrow's come from, you look at where Sink's come, you look at all these different places and stories and the grassroots connection and what's it like seeing Eddie Jones and what, you know, because everybody writes and the media writes and the fans write from outside in and never from the inside out. And I think it would be great if you could do that fly on the wall. And I know there's been some stuff, and I know the the next level stuff with England is love, because you're seeing players do that. But we can't get a deal for love nor money. And the problem is, for a lot of people, it comes down to money. So all they're interested in is who's going to pay the most. But then you have, I know.
Sorry, when you say you can't get a deal, this is on the documentary that you're pitching?
No, yeah. So basically, it's a long story. I don't know what's happened with it, but I was working with these guys who'd made a load of documentaries around Formula One and some of these ones around football. And they came to me and said, "Listen, we want to do one about rugby." If you look at the papers, 2 or 3 clubs have just pulled a pin out of a grenade and thrown it, going, "We're making an all-seeing, all-dancing documentary." And then you go and find out, and they're like, no, they haven't got any crew, they haven't got anything organised, they're just seeing what's going on. The thing with rugby is that if you think that nobody knows about English rugby, then nobody knows anything about Premiership English rugby. Do you know what I mean? Because you meet most fans, they go, "Oh, well, I don't really support Premiership rugby, but I love England." So we tried to put this conversation together. I spoke to the RFU, we've done everything, and we just can't get anything across the line. But I know there's other companies out there pursuing it, and a lot of people are interested in World Cup yet. But I think rugby is crying out, not just for behind the scenes with the decision making and the coaching, but everything else that is explored with it, and the difference. Because I do feel like we're more articulate than perhaps other sports people. There are more interesting stories in certain aspects, and actually, because we aren't. In football, you mess up or say something bad. Like going on Ellis's point, I do media now. I'm a media whore. I do a lot of stuff. I enjoy doing it. It doesn't mean that when I don't stop speaking, I sit back and go to Chloe and feel like I need a bath. And because I feel dirty, like I feel like, have I said something? Am I going to upset something? And we're in a cancel culture, blame culture at the moment. And everybody wants characters, but nobody wants an opinion. Everybody wants you to say something, but fuck me, you're going to offend everyone. And it's a nightmare. And I've now put my stake in the sand and gone, "Do you know what? I'm me, I'm doing this, and no brands want to work with me." No, because I tell you why, is because I've got an opinion and I won't pretend that something isn't how it is. And that's seen as a problem, and there's easier, safer options. And I think the documentary we've got, the potential, or anyone who's setting one up, could really reveal something great about rugby. And I don't know why they haven't done it, and I think Eddie's keen. Yeah? I think Eddie wants to do that. He was going to do it, I think, before the World Cup, but it all got pulled because it's a big gamble to have that and not get all the World Cup. So there's other opportunities, but you can have a 4-year build-up so everybody gets used to it.
Would you be interested in doing something like that, Ellis? Or is it the kind of thing actually it just is more danger than it's worth? Or actually, would you relish the chance to be able to tell your story in a more controlled fashion than currently the media might let you? I don't mean the media in general, but you get your game day interviews, or you get the chance to actually sit down and say who you are.
It's what Hass said about having the camera in the background that's sort of fly on the wall. You completely forget what you're saying, and the next minute they've pulled the plug and they got some footage they shouldn't have. Whereas we've got Joel Starker, who does all of our media stuff, and he's class. He's always there with the camera because he's such a nice bloke and he gets on with us so well. He's just like one of the boys. So like if he is filming and you see the red light beaming, you don't change, but you know, oh fuck, Joel wants a bit of content, so like sort of tone it down a bit, and then he can just act normal again. Especially like when you're in the bubble and Joel's literally living with us, and day in day out he'll like tap you up, be like, "Genge, I've got to do some Christmas stuff, can you come down and do some filming?" I'll be like, "Yeah," and then you completely forget, but he's like, "Don't matter, we're still here tomorrow." So I understand the benefits of having the fly on the wall situation if you were doing all or nothing. And I do think you'd have to go like no holds barred, like everything has to be open, And again, you think about football in comparison to rugby when all or nothing. You see how open they are about the finances and stuff. I don't think rugby would be. And that's what a lot of people are interested in. Like, all the gossip, like Hass said, why does everyone always see the teams that aren't doing great, they get the best documentaries? Because that's what everyone wants, is gossip, and they want to know all the juicy bits. Whereas I do think in rugby, it's a very much so, not keep your cards close to your chest, but I don't think you can reveal as much as you can at a football club, just because everything's up in the air. Not up in the air, sorry, everything's out in the open at a football club already, like the media knows before they fucking know. That'd be my only concerns, I guess, if I'm looking at it from a neutral point of view.
So here's a question. And Hass, you mentioned it already, the O2 Inside Line stuff, I think it's next level, has been a significant step up. It's really good content now, and you definitely get a sense of the characters and the people in the squad. But if you were to go all or nothing, and it is absolute access all areas, how much more is there within that setup which people would be surprised about, shocked by, intrigued by, etc.? I mean, inevitably, the RFU and O2 have got to kind of keep cards close to chest. But if you were able to see everything, would people's jaws hit the floor, or is it just
you simply can't do it? You just can't. We are fucking weirdos, like absolute weirdos.
Ellis,
you can't ask. You can't.
Wait. Remember. Wait.
We'd be locked up, man. I'd be in strange.
No, listen. That's the madness isn't an issue. If you say it's a given, so someone like Joel Stock, I love Joel. I've done loads of work with him. He think he's brilliant. He's
the RFU's media guy.
Yeah, media guy. He's been around for a long time.
Very good at it.
Don't for 1 minute think that the next level stuff isn't run through 17 pairs of the RFU hands. If you've ever done any work for RFU, you turn up and you go, well, that was really good filming. They're like, I go, when can I see it? They go, oh, no. That's got to go from there to there. It goes through 17 pair of hands and it comes back watered down with, 1 part content, 75 parts water. If you take out anything that's going to cause real offence, so I'm like anything that goes into the obvious brackets of somebody offended, but not like, I take the piss out of vegans. I posted a picture of a book the other day that said it tastes just like brownies and other vegan lies. I'm not worried about a load of vegans coming after me because they're probably out of breath because they haven't had a proper bit of food. But anyway, the point is that in regards to stuff on the media, if you take that out, I think there are some great bits to be seen because I think it's already emerged the different characters that you have on that, the guys are human. Because remember, we wheel you out in the media. You're different, Ellis, but you wheel people out in the media and they've got nothing to say. But actually, if we see them, some of the guys, I remember Manu playing chess. I was like, what's Manu doing playing chess?
He's literally one of the best chess players I've ever seen.
I know. Really? I mean, I don't imagine in Bristol you've seen a lot of chess players, but I know what the compliment is. So
the question I want to ask then is, and I get it. It sort of feels like the boundaries are very, very slowly being relaxed. I remember hearing back in the Sky days. I don't know whether you guys watch your cricket, but in 2005, the Ashes stopped the country. Everyone was watching the most extraordinary Test series, and Flintoff and Michael Vaughan and Trescothick were front page news. KP with the skunk hairdo, and then what happened was it went to Sky, and for 10 years or so, it's sort of the characters faded. And I think in about 2017. The ECB and Sky had a meeting which was based on the fact that no one on the high street would recognise any current England cricketers because they'd been behind the paywall and amazing money had gone into the game and that money had delivered success, but the success wasn't coming back in terms of profile of the players. And so they worked together, the ECB and Sky, on building back up the characters again and doing profile pieces. And as a result, I've always been very conscious that you've got to tell the stories of the people as well as the stories of the game. What I'd love to know from you, Ellis, is if we got warts and all and you said you can't do it, but we do, what would that do for rugby? Would that unlock interest, appeal, fascination, passion, or would it just make people think these guys actually are?
Yeah, I think if there was absolutely no backlash and we knew that we couldn't, not necessarily get in trouble, but like we weren't going to be like made a mockery of, and because like there's some fucking weird cats, mate. And like I was on the bus the other day.
In what way weird?
We just finished training the other day and we got on the bus back from Twickenham after a team run and I was like sat next to Johnny and we called Benno Neb, I don't know why. And he was just going, Neb! Like, so loud, right? I bet you heard it the other day, like when we were walking around the pitch. And I was like, just sat there. I think I was chatting to one of the boys and I was like, mate, have you like ever sat there and thought, like, why the fuck is Johnny doing that? Like, it's actually quite weird that we're all happy with him just going Nab in the background. It's just that sort of stuff. I think like people would watch Doco if it was like nothing held back, and they'd be like, "Fuck it, I want to watch." But Johnny, weird people.
Johnny's been doing that nonsense before you were in the squad. Like
100%. Yeah.
He obviously thought he was a chicken, and then all he used to do was like a clock, and what you're doing is just news, and it just time's ticking on. That's all he'd go, Johnny, how you doing? He's like, I'm okay, but it's just news. Like, he's insane, but the only reason he's insane is because he gets a reaction, he keeps doing it. I mean, he used to do the scream thing. He used to do the scream thing until someone threatened to kill him, because he used to scream at the top of his voice. He did it on a plane, a Gloucester flight back from somewhere, and everybody like jumped. And like they had to say to Johnny, stop the scream. But he'll keep doing it if you stop. Like Tom Curry, Underhill and Curry, I imagine, they're both top lads. But watching from a distance would be like they're both deserving to be in some sort of home, I imagine.
Oh, especially Underhill.
Well, if Underhill thinks he's like George Ezra playing away, it's like, mate, you haven't got the look. He'd have to be like Ed Sheeran. You know when Ed Sheeran got launched, the first few songs, they never put him on camera. So basically, you fell in love with his voice before he went.
Oh, really?
You're like, oh,
really?
shit. You're like, shit. Oh,
it's too late. They love him already.
Too late. You're like, oh my God. Actually, I love that red hair. Come and sing to me, Ed, you lovely, good looking. You know, he's like, yeah, I love it. Like, okay. But no, I think it would be quite good. My only concern with any of this stuff is if you just look at what happened to British Airways the other day, right? Okay, British Airways, who sponsor the England rugby team, right? Went, good luck, England. And social media, the trial by social media, everyone's like, how dare you? How dare you, right?
Didn't say good luck, Wales. I was like,
and it's like,
England,
and exactly, right? So what British Airways should have done is fucking just ignored it, right? And had the balls to go, this doesn't matter. When stuff is happening on social media, it seems like it's the loudest thing in the world. And it's like 4 or 5 people making more noise than anyone. In real life, it would be like someone going, please don't say that. And you'd be like, shut up, right? On social media, it's like, oh my God. And British Airways issue a groveling apology. It's like, why? You did nothing wrong. And the thing with it is now, and unless we can control that, because I remember the RFU when they did the thing for against racism, and they put up a side guy wearing a shirt, and someone wrote in going, that shirt is a representative for a racist organisation in Germany. You're like, oh, for fuck's sake! Like, you know, who don't? And then the RFU like panicking, taking it down. I was like, don't take it down. Don't let social media rule your life. So if you could do this documentary and not allow, you know, Monkey Face 55 from Devon to get so upset. And that's what I worry about. I don't think rugby or any brands at the moment will do it, because if they do it, it has to be so sanitized in case somebody shits their pants, and we all have to pretend that we care when we don't, ever.
No one really does care, do they?
I think we should do it. I would genuinely do it. I would love to see, you know, at the moment, the grassroots game in England is obviously falling apart because we haven't got the resources. The top of the game's falling apart.
Well, I reckon they call Benno Neb because that's Ben backwards, NEB.
It is. Neb, yeah.
That makes sense.
Oh, I love how I've been talking some real sensible shit, and you've been going, Ben, Neb, Ben, Neb.
And it's just rearranging the matrix. Don't worry about it.
Boy, it just hit me.
But I was saying that with the documentary stuff is great, because if you remember, we all played club rugby in some form, or we might have got involved in bits of it. And it's the heartbeat. And actually, club rugby is so full of character. So Ellis and I have talked about the fact that is rugby an elitist game. At club rugby level, it's definitely not. The grassroots level, it's definitely not. When you get into the system and everything else, that's another argument. I think if we could do a documentary that followed the England team or a club team, but followed everyone where they came from, saw what they were doing, and everything, I think it would be amazing.
Oh, what I was going to pick up on, Hask, if people think the game of rugby is still elitist, they should watch the Instagram stories of one Genge from last night with Dr. Carl Sinclair. I mean, how on earth, you know, anyone can level any accusations about it being elitist in public school off the back of you two going to town. How was last night? How was Jamie George's stag do?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Obviously, you keep a tight lid on that sort of stuff. To be fair, like being in the bubble and that, obviously nothing got out of hand. There were no fires. So no, it was good. It's good to have a drink. Last time we're going to see Jay as a single man. So, well, not single, but without a ring on his finger at least. But yeah, we had a few celebrations. It was nice. It was like the first time we could sort of proper let the air down, you know, after we had the Six Nations win, but then we sort of had to think about it the week after that and then going straight into another campaign. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. Hopefully, Jamie, I wasn't in Barbados for a stag or anything mental, but hopefully it was good enough.
On the Richter scale, are we looking at a sort of a nice, gentle 5.5, 6 out of 10? Did we push it up to 7?
I reckon we were touching 8.
Touching 8, good.
Ooh,
that is good.
In terms of consumption, we were definitely touching 8.
Who was like the ring? Was there someone like a master of ceremonies?
Yeah, you can have one stab in the dark.
Elliot Daly.
No, Elliot was. He was basically. I think Els went drink for drink with Jay because he's his best man.
Yes, that's what I thought, yeah.
So that was cool.
Marla must have been Marla was the king of ceremonies. Yeah, sorry, I forgot.
There you go.
King is dead. Long
live the king. Does he run a good show?
You know. Yeah, he does. He's class, mate. Like he says something, and if he gets no laughs out of it, he's like, right, I'll go fuck myself then. He's quite, he's one of them. He don't really care if you don't get he just keeps going. He's relentless, a bit like Hask.
He's quite organised, wasn't he? Because I
he's actually proper organised with all that sort of shit.
When he was captain at Harlequins, he created something called the Wheel of Misfortune, but it wasn't some budget wheel. He had this handmade wheel created with coloured segments that would make Wheel of Fortune look out of place, and had a special clacker. And if you did something, you would spin it and it'd be like, you've got to get a triple fake tan, boom, and then they'd send the lads off, and all the lads would come back looking like Ross from Friends.
He's class with that sort of stuff, and it's good to have like boys in the squad who've got that sort of experience as well, because obviously, as you know, you can't just wing that sort of stuff. It has to be genuine.
Does Eddie get involved? Bit of piano in the corner, knees up Mother Brown, or is he at one and leave you to it?
Yeah, he's heckling us from the back most of the time, to be honest. If someone don't finish their drink, he's usually into them before we are. He doesn't. I think he likes to come down, like celebrate with us a bit, and then leaves us to it. He's good at that, to be fair, mate. Just letting us like crack on to our own demise, because you know as well as I do, no matter how comfortable you are in an environment, boys will never fully let their hair down when there's other people there. Yeah, exactly.
Was there any sort of hangover from yesterday's game in terms of just the mood? Because when I went on social media. I was doing stuff for O2. I interviewed you. And I was upbeat because I take an objective point of view. Did we play the best? No. Was it pretty? No. Like I said to you, I thought you did really well. I thought Billy V stood out. I thought Max Mayhew was brilliant when he came out. Billy V's made it into our team in a week, and and so did yourself. We talked about it, but there was a lot of negativity. The fact that France had put out a third string side, people were going, it's not good enough. It's not this. Does that seep in? Because if I hadn't gone well, I'd find it hard those nights after the game to really enjoy it. Or was it the fact that it was Jamie Stagdew that you all had to brush it to one side anyway?
For me, definitely. I don't have any hangover from the game in terms of holding on to it. If you lose, completely different story, of course. But we just won silverware, and that's what we set out to do. I think you got to appreciate, and the boss summed it up well for us, that where rugby's at right now, the way to win a game is play the way we're playing. And that proof's in the pudding, like we're winning. So that's how you play rugby at the moment. The best teams in the world are winning games. That's how they're playing rugby. Whether you think it or not, they might have a few absolute Ric Flair players, but that is how they're winning, by kicking and doing well in the kick battle. And he actually told us a story about the Brums in 2000 when they were doing all this running rugby, and then they came to a final against, I think it was Crusaders, and they lost the final 20 points to 19. And he said, we were playing this brand of rugby, but if we would have kicked the ball, we would have won. And that's the one anyone ever cares about, is winning. Do you know what I mean? Like, people that say it now, fucking hell, they're playing such a boring brand of rugby. All the media keep harping on the same old faces, by the way, as well. Proper need to pack it in. But everyone says, do you want
to go any further with that, or should we
can't be fucked? But they all say, they're so boring, they're kicking it, they don't know how to attack. It's like, hang on a minute, we're winning. Like, what else do you want? No one gives a fuck about how you play it.
Didn't South Africa win a World Cup off the back of not going off script the entire time, apart from in the last part of the final when it was already clinched and they had some individual brilliances when England was had fallen apart? Like, this is the bit I don't get, is that we're all striving for this unbelievable game of rugby.
Yeah.
We don't go and practice just dullness. We want to have fun. Boys are playing ball in hand. But the point is that it's about winning. And I know the purists. And listen, you've always got to, with the rugby media and the journalists, you've got to have a difference of opinion, because that's what makes the world go round. Like, we can't all have common sense, or we can't all agree. But the fact of the matter is, this is how you win. This is how you win rugby at the moment. Don't blame anyone, because what would be better? We didn't do what we did when Wasps left from Adams Park to Coventry and they ran out of money. Some old players and old coaches and old fans are like, well, if they can't afford it, they should just let the club fold, slip down 4 divisions and just play good old club rugby. It's like, well, no, or we could do that, or we can move to Coventry and have a new stadium. Like, well, it's not the same. It's like, okay, but we're just probably going to do that. And it's the same way as like, yeah, we could try to play that game of rugby that's really impossible because there's 14 men on their field, and we can have a good go doing it. Like, you could be like Wales. You can have most offloads, most passes, but you can also win fuck all if you'd like to do that. And I guarantee if you did, they'd be like, well, look at South Africa. They cook, they kick, they play the territory. It's all Crusaders have ever done. And they've won every, what are they on, like 8 in back-to-back or something?
Something like that, yeah. I mean, we're by no means finished products. I'm not trying to say that. It's just, at the moment, this is the demands of the game. It's just the way you have to play to win rugby games.
Do you feel you're playing boring rugby? I mean, do you feel you're bored by what you're doing or not? When
Alex,
you roll back the sleeves?
I do not get bored of winning. I don't think it does. Do you know what I mean? It's literally.
That's your first T-shirt. That is going to be the first Ellis Genge.
I don't think anyone does. You know, like who gets bored of trophies? Like that's no one. That's what you set out to do. You set out to win, and if that's what you got to do, then that's what you got to do. And when it's 30 degrees and the game allows us to play fast, flowing rugby and it's on, and there's not 14 people on their feet, and you're not getting belted by a 20-stone bloke every time you run into it. Because defence is so good at the moment as well. So you have to kick it over the red to turn and make them out of breath, so then you can dent the line, you know?
What is it?
I said, they just don't get it. I don't know.
What's the expression? Isn't it from Sean Connery, God rest his soul, in The Rock? And he's like, purists playing open rugby, don't go home and fuck the prom queen. Ruthless rugby players get the silverware, get to fuck the prom queen, and go home and laugh about it. I mean, it's like, I remember when I first started DJing.
So that's exactly what Sean said, but we'll take it.
It's not. He says
you're like 46, mate. I haven't watched the same films as you either. Where have you quoted that from?
You haven't seen The Rock with
I've seen The Rock.
Nicolas Cage. Yeah, he basically says something about winners.
I thought you were about The Rock, the wrestler.
No. Sean Connery in The Rock says losers do this, winners go home and fuck the prom queen. I'm basically, I've converted that very cleverly to imply that if you're a purist and you want to, play expansive rugby, you ain't going to win. Winners do what we're doing, and they go home and fuck the prom queen while those people haven't even got out of bed. But I'll give you a better analogy. It's when I started DJing, this guy asked me what music I was into. Genuinely, this was about 10 years ago, and I liked EDM. I used to go to Tomorrowland and all these other places. And I said, well, actually, do you know what? I quite like Calvin Harris and Tiesto. And the bloke was like, oh, mate. He gave me this look. He was like, oh, they're not real DJs. And in my head, I was like, mate, the dude's made 80 million quid a year. Do you think he's worried that you don't think he's a purist?
He's a good DJ, yeah.
Yeah, he's left the building while you're still trying to pull your vinyl records out going, I'm doing it properly. It's like, mate, nobody cares. Fuck off.
That's a better analogy. That's a much better analogy.
Thank you. But go and watch The Rock again. You'll see what I mean.
Losers always complain about doing their best while winners go home and fuck the prom queen.
Yeah, exactly. I think, Ellis, just one question. Sorry, there is one that I think that people really want to know, right? And this is something, because don't want to be too rugby noisy, was there any element of you boys taking these guys not seriously enough because it was made abundantly clear that they were a bit of a Fisher-Price side, or a perceived Fisher-Price side?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a danger of that in there, no matter if you sort of try to steer away from it or not. I think there's always going to be that danger of going into the game thinking like they can't put their best team out, but then being French, you also have to have in the back of your mind they can pull anything off. And the players in that team were class, like they all international caliber players. Like you got Racco on the wing. Do you know what I mean? I don't think that's a third team for me anyway. So we were very aware of the dangers. I think, to be honest, they just came out the blocks a bit quicker than us in the first half. That unrivaled, weren't they? We were just second best of everything, and then in the second half we solved the problems. And at no point we've come so far as a team, because at no point in that game did we genuinely look at each other and think we're going to lose.
That's amazing.
We spoke about that after, yeah. Just the feeling that the vibe that we create with each other now, and it's probably why we're doing so well, like testament to what the coaches have allowed us to create off the field is clearly shown on the field. So.
Well, I'm going to let you into a secret. I thought you were going to lose.
Really?
I was in the box. I was in the box with, I was doing the O2 stuff with Emily Scarrett and Jack Noel. And Emily Scarrett had said, I don't see this French team winning at all, right? So the whole game I was winding up going, are you sure? Are you sure? But when Owen missed like that third kick, and I was like, we got the kick off and we were like, we're going to win this. We lost it and missed it again. I honestly thought we've blown this. Like I didn't doubt that we were going to do it, but I just thought like
too many chances.
When you watch a game, it's like, Eddie would talk about it. It's like, if you play Exeter and you let them have 5 lineouts in your 22, you could be the best defensive team in the world. They're going to score 1 or 2 of them. Doesn't matter how good you are. And I was watching that and I was thinking, how many chances do you want to get to win the game? And for whatever reason, we didn't. And I thought we would. But, that's why I'm not in the team and playing anymore.
The other thing I was going to say, though, is if you picked an England third 15 and sent it to Paris with nothing to lose and everything to gain, you'd probably have Jack Willis and Tom Dunn and Ben Spencer and actually some really seriously good talent who'd give a hell of an account of themselves. I mean, it's not like it's a third 15 that's never played rugby before. Most of these players are pretty well loaded and pretty experienced in what they do. Can I ask you about Owen? I mean, was he he got the one that mattered, and that's the only thing that really counts. But how does he handle a day when, by his own high standards, it doesn't necessarily come off the boot in the way he wants?
If you've ever had anything to do with Faz, you'll know how seriously he takes all his preparation. He's literally one of the most professional blokes I've ever met, and he's such a competitor as well. So you don't need to tell him, fucking hell, Faz, you missed the kick. Like, he knows he's missed the kick. So he's our skips, man. You just trust him to get it right, because 99, well, I don't know the kicking percentages, but a lot of the time he does get it right. And he's usually lays a ride. So you just trust him, and that just shows where we're at as a team. Like, we trust him to get the winner at the end. So otherwise, you probably would have, if we didn't trust him, we'd probably would have changed kickers, you know? I'd have had to put the moldies on and send a few through. But,
did you back yourself from the touchline?
Absolutely not, no. I got a hammer foot. But no, Faz, he's a quality operator, and he got the one that counted, like you said. But as for his head, I guess we just sort of said, like, next job, let's go and just get behind him, because he doesn't need to be here and fuck me, you've missed a kick. He, like I said, he knows he's missed.
I'm always amazed by how you visually, you can see, you see players who miss and they wince, or there's angst, or whatever it is. There's no reaction at all, almost, when he gets it or doesn't get it, Hask. I mean, he is just, I don't know how you find that mental strength just to go, done, onto the next thing. I don't know whether that's training or it's innate, or...
I think being in terms of actually being a kicker, it probably is an advantage in developing that as a person, because when you play, if you knock on the ball or do whatever, sometimes, or miss a tackle, those moments can last with you. And the sign of a good player is the ability to flip that round and carry on, dismiss it and not get on with it, not think, oh my God, I'm going to get blamed for this because it affects their decision. I imagine for Owen, because he is such an isolated skill, and that if he misses one kick, he doesn't want that to define everything else he's doing. I imagine, that he spends so much time on his process. So everything is broken down to, even though he's looking at the ball, the way he lines up the ball, that's part of his process. And if he misses a kick, there'll be some element of that process which he probably felt it didn't get right. Did his ball follow through? Did his head come up? Was he lined up properly? And I think he would make a mistake and then just dismiss it, throw that away. And then when he came to do it again, he just trusted his process, because how many hours has he spent there kicking and his dedication to it? And I actually, do you know what? There was a time there when after the third one or whatever, and we lost it, I thought, oh, they've got to let someone else have a go. But you know what? I admire him more than anything, because it shows what mental strength to go in, to line that up on arguably a way more difficult kick than the other ones, nail his process, be unshaken and deliver it. And also because imagine he had let Fordy take over the kicking and Fordy had got it. What a terrible amount of baggage to carry into the next England game that he's not playing for the next X amount of weeks. And albeit he'll be able to dismiss it, as I've said, I love it. I think my admiration couldn't be any more for him. Obviously, I wish it was more of a personal relationship, but it's just more sort of arm's length, maybe his arm's length. But I think what a guy. But the best thing for me, my highlight of his whole day, forgetting it's his kicking, was that suicidal kick charge down that he dived straight head first into the player's knee and almost knocked himself out in the last few minutes. It was unbelievable. I mean, it was like...
That was what did for Jalabert, wasn't it? Didn't he then go off after that?
I think he did. But it wasn't even like, people like dive side for the ball. Just trust Owen as that mate, get body in front of the ball. He just dived head first, head down, head butted straight into the knee, and they're both players. Mate, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's ruthless, man. He's actually ruthless.
I do just want to say you are listening to The Good, The Bad and The Rugby, the goal-kicking special edition with James Haskell and Ellis Genge. This is the content people come for. One of the things that was quite interesting, actually, watching particularly the extra time bit, was Eddie, who... He's done very well recently to coach himself into less of the table slamming and the effing and blinding on that little camera that sits under his nostrils. He was pretty contained for the 80, and then in extra time, he definitely, as he looked quite animated. Was he as emotional off the back of? Does he do emotion off the back of it or not? But he looked quite pumped throughout that extra time.
Look, he's an emotional dude. That's how he operates. He taps into people's emotions, and that's why he's such a good coach, I think. And he's genius with it, not to lick his ass too much, But it's one of the reasons why he's one of the good coaches and best coach in the world. If he didn't have any emotion, I don't think he'd be able to get out of what he gets the players, if you know what I mean. Like, he just gets boys so revved up for it. And before you go on, like some of the stuff that he says to you, for example, yesterday, he touched my heartstrings. He said about like playing for my son and like said Raf's name before I went out and stuff. And that got me. So I don't know what he was saying to the boys coming on, but he definitely would have been heartfelt, to say the least. But yeah, he operates well. I think he walked off as soon as the final whistle went and sort of like gathered himself, didn't he, for a few minutes and then came back out. But like he's a winner, man. He wants to win. So, you know, there's a lot of emotion that goes into winning.
He was quite feisty with the media afterwards. And
really?
He's from a media perspective, he's brilliant because some might get frustrated, but he does give you something every time. There are coaches out there that just don't want to play the game. But, you know, Eddie Jones gets involved and he gives you lines. He doesn't always get it right, but he gives you something. But afterwards he said, you know, people were talking about the quality of the rugby, but he said, look, it is about winning. And if we don't win, I don't remain in the job. And everybody knows that. He was talking about, you know, if England sacrificed their win at all costs policy for a more attractive but less successful style, he ain't going to stay in the job. Does he talk about the media with you, the players, or does he separate that out? I mean, it's not something I imagine that he wants to trouble you with. I just wonder whether he, you know, when you're having a cold beer afterwards, you know, he gets the chance to decompress. We were talking last week about the value of it being good to talk, or whether you just he just deals with that and keeps it separate.
No, he wouldn't ever like spring any problems upon us. He's not like that. He's completely in terms of like the boys, he just wants us to prep for everything as well as we can. And then like post game as well. He's an interesting bloke and he's interested to hear about what you got going on. So he wouldn't really not bore you, but like phase you with all that sort of stuff. He has like other shit that he'd rather talk about. And obviously last night we had Jinxie Stag do as well. So
why Jinxie?
Jamie George, sorry. It's just his name. I actually Jinx backwards. It doesn't spell Jamie, does it?
I thought it was named after that big fat cat from Meet the Parents, or have I just made that up?
I don't know. Is it? You're very old.
It's Meet the Parents.
I'm joking, boy. Fucking hell, Calvin Harris. Relax.
All right.
Put your vinyl down. Fuck me.
You know, I love having Ellis on the show. He's the only one that can keep you in check.
I know, but I just don't know what he's watching. Fucking, you know, he probably doesn't even know about the Thundercats. What's he wearing? Powderpuff Girls or fucking? I don't know what movies you've been watching. Oh, you love the Powerpuff Girls, yeah.
But yeah, like I said, he's an interesting bloke, so he doesn't really sort of bring that stuff away from. He'll talk about it, don't get me wrong, he'll address it and he'll say, boys, don't fucking listen to him, they ain't got a clue, etc. And sort of prep us in that respect. But no, he won't ever like say, Genge, have you seen this fucking headline about you? And, you know, like he won't ever put any unneeded pressures on the boys.
Al, I will say it's interesting just asking about the emotional thing, is that I think Eddie is a far more emotional person than you would lead to believe, because obviously he had this kind of calm professional exterior. I've seen different phases of emotion. I think because of the way he is, it can sometimes be quite isolating. You know, when I interviewed him for something recently, I was talking to him about it, and it's interesting because when you're in charge of the ship and you're constantly want to know how you're perceived and you understand the relationship between the players and yourself and the players and each other and where you stand and you and the coaches, and, you know, sometimes coming down in a bad mood just because it was important to razz everyone up because it was a big week. You know, when you're going through something and you're the head coach of England and you are the way you are, very honest, I can imagine it's quite an isolating thing. And I remember I've seen him a couple of times on the bus where, you know, you sort of want to go and put an arm around him. We didn't win a Grand Slam or didn't do something. And yeah, I would try to do the best I could without putting my arm around him, because it's not that kind of level of relationship. But I think it is quite isolating being that. And it was actually really nice to see, because Eddie is emotional about lots of things. But for him to see how much he cared to come out after that, I love the fact that it cracked. But for those of you who have a go, just remember that he's human like everybody else. And actually, while he's sharp of tongue and puts these things out, you know, he feels and stuff like everybody else does. And I think sometimes we see these people in these jobs that forget that they do that. And remember, he can't. He said it to me, you know, there's no point in him coming into the changing room because guys are looking for him on how to feel. So if he came into that changing room after that game and was like dour, shouting at everyone, said they were shit, this is a third string French team, albeit for the reasons you said it wasn't, boys wouldn't know how to feel. There's probably guys in there who know they didn't play very well and don't want to carry that on, and he has to set the mood. But that's very an isolating task. I think there was a Roman or Greek god or whatever. He used to take everyone's bad feeling, but used to suck it out of everybody. But then what do they do with it? That's why therapists have to see therapists, because you can't carry all that shit yourself. But who does Eddie go home to? I mean, maybe the dog Annie just deals with it and stuff. Or maybe his wife is well, we know Hiroka is like the absolute hero of all heroes. So maybe she's the one that picks him up. But it is interesting. I thought it was really good to see that emotion coming out, and I love it.
Did you have a debrief this morning? What was the sort of eggs Benedict and a sort of a fry up to soak up?
Decent breakfast to start. Then we sort of had to go around and you like pick up a few of your shirts, your belongings, pack your bags, all that sort of stuff, get them onto the bus. Then we had a few meetings, few positional meetings, and just basically said, right, on to the next. Like, what do we want to get better at? Where can we grow? Spoke in our unit groups. I was with the front rowers, obviously.
Obviously.
Haven't had a transfer just yet.
A few of the boys still a bit dusty as well, so we had a bit of a chin wag, a bit of bant, and then that was it. Chewed the fat for a bit and we were off.
I don't know if you remember this, but you were on the tour to Australia, weren't you? Yeah. Do you know about the story? Because I'm not going to mention his name because it will completely dispel everybody's rumor about it. But when one of the players had to have a meeting with Bortons, and it was his first ever tour, and he got so steaming, he overslept, missed having the meeting with Bortons and Eddie, and then turned up in his suit, still drunk. And Bortons, because obviously, I mean, you know, he's in the forwards, obviously had to have this kind of leadership relationship. Bortons was just like, mate, you're going to have to sharpen up. And now he's gone on to become, you know, a bit of a national hero. So
like the best player in the game right now.
I can't comment, but it's, you know, it's good to know everybody's human. Do you remember that, Ellis, or not?
I do, yeah. I remember seeing him same arm, same leg across the corridor. Couldn't believe it.
Has that been redacted from his CV? I can't imagine that gets brought up very often now, does it?
We won't let him forget it.
It's the same way when Chris Robshaw stole that bottle of champagne from that club.
Didn't he have a fight with one of the Made in Chelsea crew that night as well?
I might have done, but he basically leant over the bar and the bar went, "Oh, you stole a bottle of champagne," for a joke. And they went, "That's 12 grand. And I didn't have the heart to tell Robert that no bar keeps a 12 grand bottle of champagne in arm's reach, so normally in the fridge. But he couldn't afford it, so he had to get his mum to pay on a credit card or pay that they did him a deal to take for 6 grand. That was in the papers. That went in the papers everywhere. But when he became captain, it's disappeared off the papers. Like, I tried to find it all the time to send it to him. It's been erased. So if you're a favourite son of English rugby, shit gets erased. If you're not a favourite son, shit's just getting put out there. Like, my wife and I apparently have joined OnlyFans and are making porn videos. We're not yet. Anyway, no.
What do they cost?
Well, no, we haven't joined it yet. We haven't joined it.
We'll stick them in the good, the bad, and the rugby merch section. People can.
They're on vinyl at the moment.
Yeah, you love that.
The old Cine film. I was going to ask you something. Do you when you get home now? Obviously, it's very nice to see Mrs. and Raf. Do you miss it a bit? Do you get quite institutional?
No, you do. Like Miss said to me then, she was like, "You looking forward?" Because I got to go to training tomorrow, but Raf's being registered tomorrow, so he's officially going to be known as my son, if you will, legally.
Congratulations.
Really.
Is there some sort of like challenge for it? Was there? Was it like a bit like that? Who was that show that got fired in the end? What was it? The TV show.
1970s.
No, shut up. You would have known it. It's half your relatives have probably been on it. What was that?
Jeremy Kyle.
Jeremy Kyle, yeah. Is that when it's registered? What, you're going to do the test and it's going to be yours, or it actually yours?
No. It's like you go and you like actually register him, so he'll come off on databases and stuff, I guess. Or I could keep him under the radar, turn him into an assassin.
You get a microchip like a dog, or is that? Because I don't have a kid. I'm the only one here.
He's got his dog tags on his gold chain, boy. Don't worry about that.
Of course, big sovereign ring with the family crest on it.
Of course. There's no family crest, you know that. Nah, so I've asked if I can go and register him at 1:30, but other than that, I'm straight back into training tomorrow and playing on Friday, so you can't miss it too much.
You're playing on Friday?
Yeah. I want to play. I want to keep it's tough, mate. It's honestly harder for me to stop and then start again, if that makes sense. And my body is numb to the pain of rugby at the moment, whereas if I stop for a week, I'll have to adjust again to the spine compression. So I'd rather keep going. And I'm happy to play. I want to play for the club. But I'm in tomorrow, and Meg said to me, like, are you looking forward to going in? I said, yeah, because it's different faces, different environment, and I enjoy seeing where the boys are at. Like, we had a real good win against Gloucester, then we lost London Irish, and we also lost the other day to Exeter. And a lot of people probably argue, fucking hell, Leicester are the same team as before. But I can see from the outside, me and Lenny spoke about actually on the way back, we can see from the outside like how much work's been being done, and it's just changed so much. So it's like really good I want to be involved in it, which is exciting. Whereas if I'm being brutally honest with you, in the past, maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, going back to the club wasn't as easy because I knew it was a bit of a shit show. And there wasn't much progressing, if I'm being honest.
Do you get welcomed back with open arms and a cuddle, or is it in traditional Tigers style? You get bottom of the scrum machine and that's it?
Yeah, I think this is the first time we're coming back from a full international campaign with Steve as our head coach, whereas usually he would have been at England. So we'll see how he welcomes us back or doesn't welcome us back. We'll see tomorrow. I'll let you know.
Because actually also Jordan will have left since you've...
Mate, loads of people. Murph's gone. Boris Stankovic gone, who's like a huge personality for me
really?
From the club. Yeah, loads of people have left in the short space of time.
Do you get a call and sort of an update from someone in the corner office saying this is what's happened, or do you find it on Twitter, or do you get a WhatsApp group? Or?
Steve's very good at ringing us and letting us know, because in the past we have found out by social media. It's one of them where they find out before you know, or even before the person knows. It's a classic. Oh, yeah. So, no, he's very good at sort of letting us know what's going on and saying that he doesn't want us to hear from another source. He'd rather hear from the horse's mouth, which I respect and appreciate a lot. But, yeah, no, he's been brilliant with all that sort of stuff.
Good on you. Well, I'm looking forward to see you trotting around on Friday. There's one other thing I do want to talk about, Argentina. But just a quick sort of reflection on the Autumn Nations Cup and, you know, what we've had. When you look at the overall state of the nations at this point, what interests you, what excites you, what frustrates you?
Yeah, look, I think firstly what excites us is we got rugby back and we actually put some international stuff together, which, you know, ultimately, you know, I voiced it about the stuff around empty stadiums, etc. And you know, we all want to have crowds back, and I thought at Twickenham it was great to have that. I think, listen, you know, England came off the back of a Six Nations where, you know, it wasn't long ago for all those people who were complaining when we played France first time round that you know, Eddie should be sacked and we should all change and that we weren't going to do anything. We subsequently won the Six Nations. You know, we went through the Autumn Nations Cup and you know, got the win. I thought it was great. I think obviously, you know, the other home nations is interesting. I thought, you know, Ireland have probably developed and got better, you know, from where they started. You know, Wales, I think, look, I've seen that, you know, Wayne Pivac's come out and said that he didn't feel the teams were fit enough. He felt the players were fit enough. He felt that they, you know, had a lot of work to do and didn't really fare very well. I mean, you know, Warren Gatland used to tell everyone they were the fittest team in the world, but I'm not sure they were, but if you just tell everyone you are, then everyone believes you. So maybe Wayne needs to do that. That might work. I think Scotland, you know, obviously we're doing so well, but then got soundly beaten by Ireland. I think, look, the one disappointing thing is I think we wanted to see a full strength French side come out and play England just to bury that hatchet. I think, you know, for anything, France, it's been shown the amount of depth they've got, and they're properly back on the world stage. I think what Sean Edwards is doing there, what Gautier is doing there, what Rafa Ibanez is doing over there, they look in a pretty naughty place. And actually to get that much exposure to so many different players, people like Makalou, you know, he's been pulling up trees for Stade Francais. And I know Benjamin Kaiser, another friend of the show, came on and talked about him. He didn't play particularly well last week, but he had a little cameo off the bench this week, and I thought he did brilliantly. So look, I think we're in a positive place. I just think that it'll be interesting when crowds come back. Some lads will grow by 2 or 3 inches in performance. I've got to say that most of the set piece bar England stuff was pretty dreadful, especially the line out, but then England's faltered a little bit. But look, I think we're in a good place. I think it's positive. But listen, let's get the Six Nations and let's get people back in. Because again, over this Christmas period, if we see people rammed in pubs until 11 o'clock, but you can't fill an 80,000 seater stadium with more than 2,000 people wearing masks, you know, I think we can probably do that, don't you think? Or is that just too much madness? Or is it because people are worried of walking through the stairs that they're going to get contact? I don't know.
It's a profound question, James, and we'll try and find an answer for you. Ellis, do you watch the other stuff when you're involved? I mean, do you watch any of Saturday's rugby?
I watched Leicester game.
Good on you.
On Saturday. Leicester Chiefs. What else? I caught a little bit of the Bath game. So depending on we were in the Beaumont Room, Hask? Yeah, in the Lansbury, the big one. So we have like 2 team area bits, like a gaming sort of setup, and then like a Beaumont Room, and there's like a projector in there. So it's basically first dibs as the projector, and there's a few Chiefs boys in camp at the moment. So the Leicester boys jumped on the back of that So that one was up on the big screen. And then the other boys had their phones watching like the Bath game and that. So yeah, we catch a bit. I'll be honest with you, I'm not I love rugby, but watching it for me isn't the most appealing thing, you know? Especially when it's not my team involved. So I can't really buy into it. But I'd maybe rather go and play League of Legends, maybe. So
possibly.
Definitely.
The question I was going to ask is, do you keep an eye on what Wales and Ireland, Scotland have done?
Oh, we watch the international games, yeah. And we watch all the internationals and stuff. But that's more so for analysis, I guess. And like see what they're about, see what their scrum's doing, just so that we can like see how they react on the pitch to stuff and all the deeper side analysis.
When you watch, are you watching pad of paper and you're not, when coaches, they don't watch the game, they watch players or they watch aspects of it, but they're not necessarily taking in the whole thing. Are you deep in analysis when you watch it? Or
no, I'll watch I'll literally sort of sit there with the boys, coffee in hand, we're talking shit, and then if a scrum comes, I'll watch a scrum, or because we get individual clips as well. Yeah, absolute scrum knows. Because if we get sent
version of everybody else,
we get sent like individual clips of each player. So say, for example, you're starting, you'll get Haskell will get the opposite number 7's. What position did you play? 6.
Left off most of the time.
6.5.
Actually, I didn't. I started way more games than I got on the bench. I played 6, 7, right?
You'll get the 19 shirt for the other teams.
Well, again.
You get sort of like all these individual clips, and the Rats do such a good job. Sorry, the Rats are the analysis boys. They do such a good job in terms of like breaking everything down and making it so easy to digest what the other team's doing that you don't really have to watch the game if you don't want to. You can just look at the clips.
Are you quite pumped about the Six Nations though? And hopefully we'll get more people back in. And I mean, did you leave today thinking, God, it's only 8 weeks away, whatever it is, Christmas, Turkey, and then we get into it again?
Yeah, look, I'm loving being a part of that team at the moment. And if I get the opportunity to play again, then I'd love to go out there and potentially win more silverware. But obviously you can't look too far ahead. We've got to tackle what's at hand first, and for me at the moment that'll be Breathe on Friday night. But yeah, I'd love to be involved in that. 2
shows in, and that is your first off the page media handbook answer. Well done. Not bad. We'll stop the clock. And the final thing I want to know is who won in the gaming zone? Who's the best at the golf?
Oh, fucking hell. So I brought my clubs in and all the boys...
We're out of the handbook again.
Yeah,
we're out of media handbook.
We go. All the boys were smoking my clubs and I was getting quite precious about them, like going down. Even I'm so bad at golf as well. And I was like going down, putting the heads back on the freewood and stuff. And I actually thought to myself, I was like, I'm that shit. It doesn't matter. Like, why am I coming in here? I was in there for about 20 minutes and I put a ball through the ceiling. I teed my driver up. And I golfed with Jay a few times. He was like, boys, he's actually fucking mustard off the tee, right? We had this golf simulator. So there I am. I've set up. Gonna be a backslip. 0 rotation. So I have to fucking go after it, right? So I'm like that stiff as a board. As I come through, I've like leant back because I've got platform golf shoes on. So I've leant back in my Ugg slippers. Literally, these ones. I've leant back. And I've like got right underneath this ball, and there's a net above the simulator, and a gap literally about that big, same size as Asker's cock. And it's literally the ball's like flew up, gone straight through the ceiling, and the boys were like, Genge, I don't think you should hit the fucking the driver anymore. And I was like, no, you're probably right.
Unbelievable.
Tiny gap.
From the media handbook to not the media handbook. Hask, do you want to write a reply?
No, I mean, listen. I'm not. I don't need to talk my piece up. It's
what you do with it that counts.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm not getting into that case of it. It's not like, it's not the size that counts. No, it's the size and what you do with it. What I want to know more importantly, though, is that obviously you've got the Beaumont Room, right, which is off the legend that it's Bill Beaumont. I don't think I'd ever qualify for a Haskell room, but I wondered what would be in the Genge lounge. Would that be sort of like a working men's club with sort of, what would be like?
Workbench.
Yeah, like what would it be? Yeah, would you reckon it would be? Because I imagine the Haskell room at, say, Penny Hill Park or probably have a dance pole, a couple of DJ decks, a couple of naughty shops, probably a couple of champagne brasses that would be there just serving champagne as the lads walked in. What would you have in the Ellis room?
Mine would be a toilet. It'd be a toilet of some sort, one that no one wants to use. There's never any toilet roll in there. They don't have a toilet brush. There's no soap in there. You just fucking go in, put a bit of cold water on your hands after you've had a shit.
Is that like, was it the toilet like out of Train Spotting? Hopefully.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like it was that's the Genge room. The Beaumont Suite's a highly powered gaming room with a golf ball through the ceiling with some Bristolians going, here, I can play golf. That's a cricket bat, Ellis, you dickhead.
Let's call it gear change. Just for those who weren't aware of it, Pablo Matera, Argentinian captain, along with his fellow forwards Guido Petti and Santiago Sochino, were suspended for comments that they made on social media posted between 2011 and 2013 that disparaged black people and those from other South American nations. But the UAR said the players' apologies, combined with their good behaviour in the year since the comments were posted, meant the suspension, could be lifted. There isn't really a question. Is there a reaction, Ellis?
Yeah, when we heard about it in camp, we didn't actually see. There was a lot of stuff that came out about it, and we were preparing for the game, so we didn't look too far into it. But I think some of the apology and stuff, because someone sent me one, and it was like literally said, "Sorry, I was young," sort of set up, and I was like, "Fuck, that's not a very good excuse." And then supposedly it was like a cropped version, and then there was like some bits lost in translation. And I think like with everything going on in the world as well, like it's a terrible time for that. It's terrible anyway, isn't it? But it doesn't look good coming out in the current climate of everything that's going on. So I think he's been hit probably really hard emotionally because a lot of his teammates, his dad are black or ethnic in general. So it's going to be hard for him to go back to the club as well. As for reaction personally, I mean, if anyone ever said that to me, I'd be pretty wound up.
Would you, if you played Argentina this weekend, would you have filled him in?
I wouldn't have wanted to be on the pitch at the same time as him, because I don't know you never know what your emotions are going to let you do you?
It's a difficult topic for me to talk about because I'm not affected by it. Obviously, like it is hugely disappointing when people do this. And look, the old excuse, it happened a long time ago. It's the same. I know there's an adage that if you talk enough about a conversation, you always start talking about the Nazis. But that's what Nazi Walker used to say. It happened a long time ago and we're forgiven. I would say that, if someone is contrite and has made a mistake, we all made mistakes, and there's all things in the past, and sometimes a lack of education, the social demographics and social dynamics that perhaps he came from, I don't know, can lead you to think a certain thing. And then until you get out into the real world and realise it's not acceptable to think these things, because people aren't born racist, they're made racist, and they've done that through, nature, nurture versus nature, and that's some that's indoctrinated. But you can always turn around and say, do you know what, I fucked up and made a mistake. What I think is interesting, what you said about the apology, is that there is so much stuff now, because we're doing this trial by social media, that nobody's got a clear picture of the facts of what actually anyone said. And the problem is that, you say just a sorry, I was young. But if you said there's a whole extensive essay, all people are doing is basing it on that conversation. Like, for example, and again, I haven't watched this whole thing, but the guy from football who resigned after the House of Commons inquiry, because they were all cut down in sound bites and segments. And I was talking to David James, the goalkeeper, about it, about these different areas about race. And he was like, if you watch the whole stuff, it's not as it was said, but because we cut it down into sound bites on social media, it's lost. I think it's a shame because Matera went from 1 week being, the talismanic player, the hero, to fucking up. Now, I don't feel, like I said, emotionally, you're absolutely correct, because what he said is wrong. And you've got to ask questions. Why does he feel that way? All I would say is do we know the bigger picture in terms of how he apologized and what he did do? And also, everybody makes mistakes. And, you need to understand enough about the dynamics, but hopefully he understands that this is not the world we live in, and shit like that's not acceptable. But you see people all the time who've gone through social media and said things, and, we all have different worldviews. And I look at the person I was 2 years ago, or even before I met my wife, in terms of how compassion, understanding, dealing with stuff with mental health, how I viewed stuff is very different than what I said now. I obviously wasn't fucking ever stupid enough to put stuff like that on social media. I'm sure if someone went through my tweets, they'd find something, but obviously nothing racist or anything like that. But, I just think we do make some mistakes, but people have got to learn, and hopefully this is a fucking wake-up call for people to stop acting like that.
Yeah, and what you said about the whole like dynamics of him, where he's been brought up socially, that does have a massive effect on people. Like I've literally got friends who some of my best mates now they were racist to me when I was younger at school, you know, and I've forgiven them. They've educated themselves, but it was literally just because of the place that we were from. That's the way they acted. They thought it was normal. It was socially acceptable where we were, like the school and the area that we were brought up in. It was acceptable for them to be racist, and now we've grown up. They don't even need to say it to me, you know. Like I know that they aren't like that anymore, and they'd be horrified if anyone ever said something like that to me. Well, I know they have because people have said it, and they've stuck up for me. I do feel not bad because what he said isn't acceptable, like you said, but I do feel as though people do need to sort of understand that in that part of South America, perhaps it's not as similar to some of the beliefs that are over here. And you have to look at that before you sort of hang him, you know?
I agree. But look, I'll give you the example of it in my case. So talk about homophobia, right? And homophobic language. So
what does xenophobia mean?
Xenophobia is like against a nation as opposed to a race. So against it's basically not, well, it's racist, but it's essentially against a nation, a country is xenophobia as opposed to like individually racist to people. I think that's right. I mean, I'm pretty certain it's right. But what I was interested about is homophobia. So I was never, until I was educated about being gay or straight or lesbian or bi, all these other things, not transgender, that's not a sexuality. That's a different topic, right? I used to use words like, "Oh, you're gay" or whatever. Like you used to say that to people at school. You know, "Oh, you're so gay," all this kind of stuff. That was an education process to stop using language like that, albeit, you know, at an early age, to realise that was not appropriate, right? But everybody does it. Like, for example, at Twickenham the other day, some bloke mouthed through the door to me, "Oh, you need to be out there playing." You know what fans like, "You should take your shirt off and play." And I was like, "Mate, I can't run." He went, "What's wrong?" I said, "My ankle." He went, "Oh, you puff." Now, for me, that really jars because I know so many people are trying to break that cycle of language. But if I've done anything wrong, when I was younger, I would have said those things, which is now completely inappropriate. And I never said it out of malice. And I never said it to a gay person, but I was perpetuating a stereotype that, i.e., if you were gay, there was something wrong with you. So I have been guilty of that. And I have learnt the hard way that that's not right. And now I campaign very strongly about changing it. But it's still common parlance. Like for an old bloke to say that, like he doesn't mean it. But the point is, he said it. And I wonder sometimes with these cultural things is where we're trying to eradicate and hold people to all these standards when we probably just need to understand a little bit better. And what you do is, because we all fuck up, is go, like, you fucked up. Are you actually sorry? Do you learn? And then you now judge Matera on his reaction moving forward. Because if he says he's sorry and he goes around saying it again, then he obviously hasn't sorry and he'll deserve everything that will come to him. But I'm always concerned about these things because context, exactly what you said at the start, is everything. Context is how people see stuff and their emotional reaction. Someone like yourself who's had racial abuse, like you said, with a friend standing up, I've not experienced it, but I know people have experienced homophobia and I know other people have experienced other things. So it's all about context. There'll be some person who will listen to Matera and be like, he fucking should die. He should never play. And it's like,
yeah, of course.
You know, the question I was going to ask you is around your emotional reaction to it. I mean, hypothetically, you know, if you were playing against him, or you know, highly likely you will play against him again. I mean, is it him that you're angry with? Is it the reaction of the UAR? Is it the fact that, you know, it was a 48-hour sort of ban and it's been swept under the carpet? What is the emotional trigger? And how would you, as a professional athlete, you know, how are you going to have to deal with circumstances like this, which are inevitably going to crop up?
Yeah, I've always thought to myself in the professional game, like, because I remember when I was younger, someone was racist to me when I was playing, and I came off the pitch, just stopped playing. My old man was like, "Yeah, come off."
Is that like in a sort of professional environment, or is this club rugby? And
no, it's young, very young, under 13s or something. And we just called it a day. I was like, "No, I can't do it." And
who's racist and under 15 and under? Who does that shit?
So I do ask myself, if that ever happened to me, how would I react? I think I'd probably react similarly, to be honest. I'd probably just ask to be taken off. But in terms of actually playing against him, I don't think I'd hold it against him, but I don't know. You'd have to put me in a situation when I'm caffeine at my eyeballs. It's probably a different answer, isn't it? So you'd have to ask the Ellis Genge when he's got 1,000 milligrams of caffeine thrown for his blood. You'd have to control yourself, obviously, if you're going to be put into that situation. You have to prep yourself prior to that in terms of like, right, I'm playing, he's playing, I can't do anything stupid, and I wouldn't want to let the boys down. But I'd probably chat to chat to the boss and just get his thoughts on it, because I know that he sort of holds racing quite close to him as well. So,
is there a network within the England setup that and not necessarily even in that scenario, but in that offers support in those kind of environments? I mean, players must go through things all the time. I'm not in any way trivializing this, but players will play with partners who are ill, or kids who aren't very well, or parents who aren't very well. And that isn't the same as what we're talking about here. But the question is there almost a sort of a special set of circumstances where you can say to people, do you know, this is right on my mind, and if I don't sort this out, it could explode in a way that I don't want it to?
We've got a lot of people in the environment. We've got the psychologist, Andrea. She's really good. For me, I like Will Carlin. I know it sounds like quite a bit of a mad one to say, but he's such a level-headed bloke. And you can see why he captained England back in the 50s with Hask. He's so grounded, and he can relate to... He's actually quite similar to Hask, I'll be honest. Like, he's clearly not from the same walk of life as me, but I can relate to him on so many levels. Just... He's quite in touch with the boys, and like I chat to him on a regular basis during lockdown. I spoke to him a lot, and when he's in and around the bubble, what we had then, it was the relief, just because you go to him, you know, he's never going to judge you for anything you say, and he's got that wise head on him that sort of sees everything from everyone's point of view. So for me, it'd be Uncle Bill, but yeah, like the boys are just quite sort of intertwined with each other now. Like we're comfortable around each other. And we do so much work on it off the pitch. Like, let's actually get all of our problems off our chest. And we have like an hour a week where we sort of get everything out in the open with everyone in the room. It was a bit awkward to start with, but we're getting better at it now.
Do you have circles and hello, I'm Ellis and I'm here?
No, it's nothing like that. It's just like we sit around and we say, right, let's get out in the open. How are we feeling? All that sort of stuff. And sometimes there's a few long, awkward pauses, but it is beneficial. Like when you first come into it, you're like, fuck me, what's going on? And then you see the benefits, because when it happens on the pitch, then it's like, fuck me, we spoke about this, we knew it's coming, and we react better for it. So
we were saying last week, it's good to talk. I'm so glad to hear, because actually we've interviewed Will in the past, and it was an extraordinary interview with him. It was unbelievably emotional. And I remember when he sort of went into the England camp and was like, what is Will Carling doing in there? But it's become very, very clear how much the players value him. And it's become very clear. He never wants to talk about it whenever we interview him or speak to him. He's also been a real force for positivity on social over the last 6-9 months, which is just such a rarity out there as well.
He's a top guy, you know. Like, and also remember, he was like the original Playboy rugby player in the UK. Like, I was a young player. He was the only England player I knew when I was growing up. Like Will Carling, you know, because he was obviously on both ends of the paper. But he is he's a top guy. Will's someone that I've spoken to, and you know, him and I will talk about different things and ideas, and we were talking about leadership stuff as well the other day a while ago before he came on. I think he's got utmost respect, but he's like the original renegade. He's like the maverick, you know, that because obviously when he said all that, was it 57 old farts and stuff like that, he's saying what we're saying now, but we could say it willy-nilly and not get thrown out. He said it because no one said it, and was like stripped of the captaincy because there was 57 old farts in Blazers, and they almost exploded. They almost dropped their glasses of red wine when they were that perturbed. I think in the RFU back in the day, they used to have a meter instead of like, you know, really angry and fucked off. It was like amused, you know, slightly aggravated, perturbed, and it was almost flustered. And if it's gone to flustered, mate, I don't know what would have happened. Meltdown.
I'm glad he's a very good force for good in your camp, and that's a sort of a relatively positive note as we head towards the end. We'll watch and wait and see with Argentina. There's very little I think that we can add, but I'm very grateful for your honesty, Ellis. I think,
all good.
Let's hope that the good comes out of it in wherever it can. A couple of bits of housekeeping before we go. Last week, we set our readers, viewers, listeners, etc., a festive challenge. We've got a competition in partnership with our very good friends at Smart Home Sounds, which is Andy Hazel's business. For those of you who remember the great Gloucester flanker, they have very kindly offered the very latest 65-inch A8 OLED TV from Sony, along with a Dolby Atmos soundbar to experience the buzz of live sport and gaming and whatever it is you might want. Obviously, Christmas TV around the corner as well from your very own home. 2 runners-up would also win a Sonos One smart speaker. this is where if we were playing the generation game, we'd get like an ooh to come in. We haven't got the budget, unfortunately, for sound effects. However, the question we posed is this. If I'm good, Hask is bad, and Mike is rugby, what is Ellis? Who's obviously joined our team as a very welcome fourth wheel. We wanted the best, most creative word to sum him up, that A, fits the ethos of the show, and B, more importantly, into the title of the podcast as well. Ellis, this is your kind of competition judging section. Lots of you must need new tellies, apparently, because we have had thousands and thousands of responses. There's a surprise. Here are the best 10. Ellis will fly through them, and then you can pick a winner and 2 runners-up. Does that work?
Perfect.
Number 1, Billy Pearce, The Good, the Lads and the Rugby. Number 2, Dave McGlone, The Gert, the Bad and the Rugby. I don't understand that.
Gert is an expression in Bristolian that pretty much fits into anywhere. Gert, that's a Gert car, that's a Gert pair of shoes. Means big, it can mean anything really.
Good, I like it. I like the Bristolian. I like this one, The Good, the Bad, the Bab and the Rugby.
Yeah, I like
by Matt Galley. Michael Ashwin, The Good, the Royal, the Rig and the Rhino. He's gone off piste a bit, but
who's Rig?
That must be me, I think.
I'm not even going to buy. I'm not even going to buy. I don't need to.
James is bin juice. Okay, the good, the bad, the bin juice and the rugby from Smiley Cowell Jones. The good, the bad and the still playing rugby from James Simerson. The good, the bad, the brand and the rugby. Hask?
I'll take that.
Yeah, you've let that
whatever you need, whatever works. As long I want a TV as well.
Perkard. No, you don't get a TV. The good, the bad, the rugby, and it's Mr. Genge to you. I like that from Tony Hadwin. The good, the bad, both barrels and the rugby from Darren Johns, and the good, the bad, the outlaw and the rugby from Graham Nash. Some very strong entrants. Have you got a favourite?
So I'm going to mark them on how well they roll off the tongue, firstly.
Good.
Because I like the film. It's Clint Eastwood, isn't it? Good, Bad and the Ugly.
It is, yeah.
Big fan.
His favourite film when he was 20.
I do like those films a lot.
Yeah, go on.
So it needs to roll off the tongue. I think the contenders for me would have to be the good, the bab, and the rugby. The Gert, the bad, and the rugby. Purely the use of the Bristolian. And what was the second last one?
The good, the bad, both barrels and the rugby.
That or the outlaw one, but I'll leave that to you boys to decide.
The good, the bad, the outlaw and the rugby. I quite like the outlaw one because of the... Go on, Hask.
I made this the good, the bad, the scrapper and the rugby.
Yeah, you're not involved. So
Yeah.
I had one that someone sent in my DMs, which was the good, the bad and the rugby beast mode when Ellis was on, which I quite liked. No? Okay, I'll sit back down.
Yeah.
Good.
Should we the good, the bad, the fanny and the rugby?
Boys, you're so lucky you got me on this fucking show.
Shut up. We did pretty well without you, bud.
No doubt.
Cool. What's your third one? Let's go to the good, the bad, the outlaw and the rugby. Okay.
Close fourth place though for the double barrel.
Okay, good, the bad, both barrels. Okay, go on then. You've got to pick a 3-2-1. The outlaw, the Gert, and the Bab. Who wins the telly box? A 65-inch A8 OLED TV from Sony and a Dolby Atmos soundbar.
The Gert, the bad, and the rugby. The good, the bad, the babber, and the rugby. The good, the bad, the outlaw, and the rugby.
It's got to be the Gert.
The Gert is the winner. The Gert, the bad, and the rugby.
I think so, yeah.
Congratulations, Dave McClone. That will be nothing. It'll mean nothing to anyone outside of Bristol, but Bristol is the winner, and you can't say further than that. Well done, Dave. You've got yourself a hell of a setup, courtesy of the great Andy Hazel's new biz, Smart Home Sounds. You've won yourself an A8 OLED TV from Sony and a Dolby Atmos soundbar. Boys, well done. The good, the bad, and the rugby. That's Matt Galley, and the good, the bad, the outlaw, and the rugby is Graham Nash. You've won yourself an amazing.
And Payno, if anyone else wants, if anyone wants anything from Hazy, just go to www.smarthomesounds.co.uk and buy your own Sony OLED 65-inch TV. If you didn't win it, help the rugby community.
You telling people to go and buy things. You're the captain of getting freebies. It's extraordinary. That is as good a plug as we'll ever have on this show. Smarthomesounds.co.uk. Thank you, Hazy. Good luck with the biz. Christmas shopping still to be done. Go and visit his website. And it's genuine. We had so much good feedback off the back of you joining. It's really good to have you as a fourth wheel. Look after Raf. I hope the missus gives you a little bit of leeway and get stuck in on Friday. We'll be watching with great interest. just a reminder, everybody, that's it for this week. The Good, the Bad, the Rugby. Thanks to Haskell, thanks to Ellis. Well done to Lord and Zed as well. That is very good news. And
yeah, how good.
How good is that? A little world exclusive for our shambles of a show. Don't forget you can sign up to our social media if that's where you like to play. Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Just type in Good Bad Rugby. We're very easy to find. You can also find some new merch. We've got website up and running for that, goodbadrugby.com, and our new t-shirt, which is going in, I do not get bored of winning, will be available on Monday with your face on it, which is good. Don't forget to check out our combined team of the weekend with Amazon Prime and the Autumn Nations Cup on our YouTube channel right now, a special mini show that we've been doing every week for the past month or so. And no more rugby for the year, as we said, in terms of the internationals, but you can still catch Amazon Prime Video's coverage of the Premier League, including Liverpool against Spurs on Wednesday, December the 16th. It's also the place for the new Benobano documentary, which we were talking about earlier on. Do go and watch it. And the brilliant Dan Leo's Oceans Apart doc as well. So Benno's doc is everybody's game if you're looking for that one. Dan Leo's doc is Oceans Apart. And while you're at it, go and have a listen to the show we did with Dan a few weeks ago as well. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week when Tinds will be joined by another former and very famous international skipper. We're looking forward to that one. Not necessarily who you think it might be. Have a great rest of your week. We're seeing you soon.